Hello everyone, and welcome to another First Page Friday. It's me, Miss Nicole, or Nicole, whichever you prefer to call me. And this one we're going to be exploring nonfiction. So I am going to be completely honest. I am so jealous of the nonfiction that's available for young adults and teens now versus what was available for when I was a teen. It's so engaging. They're written in a narrative form, so a lot of them are written in a way that it's supposed to be a story. So with First Page Friday, if this is your first time here, hello. We read the first page of a book. Very simple. If the paragraph happens to end on the next page, I do flip the page and keep on going. But I just want to give you a taste of the book. If you're interested in any of the titles that I'm reading, you can check the link in the description, and then you can place a hold on it. So we are going to start off because we're still in summer. We are still going to be doing some water, boat, ocean of possibility related things. So we'll start off with this one, the Whydah, the pirate ship fared, wrecked, and found by Martin W. Sandler. So I'll start off by reading the description of it and from the little jacket, and then I'll read the first page. Launching in 1716 to ply the triangle trade, the Whydah was designed to be fast and to hold large amounts of cargo, both material and human. Captain Prince had completed the sale of slaves brought from Africa to the Caribbean and had turned the Whydah towards England ladled with riches when his ship was overtaken by one of the most successful pirates of the time. Black Sam Bellamy sought not only fortune, but a ship with a large capacity to carry it. He used the Whydah as his flagship and loaded it to the gunwales with loot from vessels plundered along the east coast of America. But on a stormy night in 1770, the Whydah ran aground on a sandbar off of Cape Cod and sank. Cape Codders salvaged what washed ashore. The governor of Massachusetts sent his best men to look for the rest, but nothing could be found. It wasn't until 1984 that marine archaeologists found the wreck and its treasure of old and priceless artifacts, as well as a wealth of historical evidence that changed much of what we thought about pirates. Martin W. Sandler brings a vivid life to the cruel slavers and the avaricious pirates with their unique culture and rules, and then tells the story of determined seekers, brave divers, and ingenious preservationists who brought the Whydah's secret to light. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, leave it, tell me next time you see me. There's a little introduction, so I'm actually going to skip the introduction and just go straight to chapter 1. So technically it's not the First Page Friday, but don't judge me. Okay, chapter 1, the slave ship Whydah. In February 1717, Captain Lawrence Prince was heading home, back to England on his ship, which was loaded with a fortune in gold, silver, and other valuables. It was the final leg of this magnificent vessel's highly successful maiden voyage. Formerly named the Whydah Galley, the ship was built in 1715 for Sir Humphrey Morris, a member of the British Parliament. Morris was one of the most active slave traders of his day. His new ship, name for the infamous West African slave trading port, Whydah, was constructed to carry captured African Caribbean plantations, where sugar, rice, and tobacco, indigo, and other highly valued products were grown. There were captives would be sold into slavery. Maurice was the Lawrence Prince to the captain ship, selected Lawrence Prince to captain the ship. It was an understandable choice, as Prince was well suited to command a ship constructed for such a brutal purpose. He had spent several years under the feared Welsh privateer Captain Henry Morgan, who had been employed by the England to capture or destroy Spanish ships and raid Spanish towns in the Caribbean. That Prince could be ruthless in carrying out his duties was evidenced by the official Spanish government report of a raid he led in a town in Nicaragua. Prince, the report stated, made havoc and 1,000 destructions, sending the head of a priest in a basket and demanding 70,000 pesos in ransom. So that's the first one. The next one I want to share with you today is The Port Chicago 50 Disaster, Mutiny, and the Fight for Civil Rights by Steve Sheinkin. In San Francisco Bay, there was a United States Navy base called Port Chicago. During World War II, it was a busy port where young sailors, many of them teenagers, loaded bombs and ammunition into ships bound for American troops in the Pacific. Like the entire Navy, Port Chicago was strictly segregated. All the officers giving orders were white. All the men loading bombs were black. On July 17, 1944, a massive explosion rocked Port Chicago, killing 320 servicemen, injuring hundreds more. But the truly remarkable part of the story was still yet to come. Surviving black sailors were taken to a nearby base in order to return to the same exact work. More than 200 of the men refused unless the unsafe and unfair conditions at the docks were addressed. The sailors called it standing up for justice. The Navy called it mutiny and threatened that anyone not immediately returning to work would be facing the firing squad. Most of the men agreed to back down. 50 did not. This is a dramatic story of prejudice and injustice in America's armed forces during World War II, and a provocative look at the controversial group of young sailors who took a stand that helped change the course of history. The first hero. He was gathering dirty laundry when the bombs started falling. It was early in the morning of December 7, 1941, at the U.S. Naval Base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and a mess attendant, Dory Miller, had just gone on duty aboard the battleship USS West Virginia. A 6'3", 225-pound Texan, Miller was the ship's heavyweight boxing champ, but his everyday duties were somewhat less challenging. As one of the ship's African-American mess attendants, he cooked and cleaned for the white sailors. Miller was below deck picking up clothes when the first torpedo slammed into the side of West Virginia. Sirens shrieked, and the voice roared over the speakers. "Japanese are attacking! All hands! General quarters!" Miller ran to his assigned battle station, an ammunition magazine, and he saw it had already been blown apart. He raced up the deck and looked up in the bright blue sky, shrieked with enemy planes and falling bombs. Japan's massive attack had taken the base by surprise, and the thunderous explosions were rocking American ships all over the harbor. World War II, two direct hits cracked the deck of the West Virginia, sending flames and shrapnel flying. Okay, that was the first one. The next one, that was Port Chicago 50 by Steve Shankin. And the last one I want to share with you today is called Revenge of the Whale, the true story of the whale ship Essex, Essex, by Nathaniel Philbrick. Never in the history of whale hunting had a ship been attacked by a whale. But on November 20th, 1820, the unthinkable happened. The whale ship Essex was rammed and sunk by an angry whale. In minutes, the 20-man crew, several of whom were only teenagers, found themselves stranded in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in 3 leaky boats with minimal supplies and little hope. 3 months later, 2 of the boats were rescued off the coast of South America. The castaways had sailed over 4,500 miles from the site of the disaster, an incredible distance. But of the 20 men, only 8 survived. Through first-hand accounts, including that of a 14-year-old camel boy named Thomas Nickerson, as well as the archival photos, maps, and artwork, Revenge of the Whale suddenly recreates the dire circumstances of the ill-fated Essex. How these young men overcame hunger, thirst, fear, and never lost their humanity in a story of exciting and shocking as ever told. Preface. February 23rd, 1821. Like a giant bird of prey, the whale ship moved lazily up the western coast of South America, zigzagging across the living sea of oil. For that was the Pacific Ocean in 1821, a vast field of warm-blooded oil deposits known as sperm whales. Harvesting sperm whales, the largest toothed whales in this distance, was no easy matter. 6 men would set out for the ship in a small boat, row up to their prey, harpoon it, and then attempt to stab it to death with a lance. The 60-ton creature could destroy the boat with a flick of its tail, throwing the men into the cold ocean water, often miles from the ship. Then came the enormous task of transforming a dead whale into oil, ripping off its blubber, chopping it up, boiling it into high-grade oil that lit the streets and lubricated the machines of the industrial age. That was all of this was conducted on the limitless Pacific Ocean, meant that the whalemen of the early 19th century were not merely seagoing hunters and factory workers, but also explorers, pushing out farther and farther into a scarcely charted wilderness larger than all the human land masses combined. For more than a century, the headquarters of this global oil business had been a little island called Nantucket, 24 miles off of the coast of southern New England. It was a Nantucket whale ship, the Dolphin, just a few months into their 3-year voyage, that was making her way up the Chilean coast. And on that February morning in 1821, the lookout saw something unusual, a boat, and possibly small for open sea, bobbing on the swells. The ship's captain, 37-year-old Zamari Coffin, trained his spyglass on the mysterious craft with a keen curiosity. And that was the first page of Revenge of the Whale, the true story of the whale ship Essex. So again, the 3 books I shared was the Whydah, a pirate ship fared, wrecked and found, Port Chicago 50, Disaster, Mutiny, and the Fight for Civil Rights, and Revenge of the Whale, the true story of the whale ship Essex. If you want any of these, I will leave them in the comments so then you can place a hold on it. Thank you for joining me for another First Page Friday, and I will see you next month. Bye.